So, I don't think y'all understand that when slavery ruled this country, it was a hotbed issue. At one point, before Kansas entered the Union, there were so many fights between anti slavery and pro slavery factions that it was actually called Bloody Kansas. Yeah. And if I recall correctly, there were physical fights on the floor in Congress over the spread of slavery and whether or not it was going to go into the West. Yeah, it was that bad. Yeah, yeah. And then along comes James K. Polk, who mixes manifest destiny and the want to spread the peculiar institution of slavery into the West. Let's talk about it. Actually, we're going to talk about the Compromise of 1850, but it starts with James K. Polk. Uh, James K. Polk, he had some nerve. Yeah, he did. First, he's like, uh, Texas? Well, you're a state now. Uh huh, yeah. And Texas would enter the Union as a slave state. It would. But small problem, and that would be Mexico. Mexico was like, hmm, who said Texas wasn't still a part of Mexico? I'm confused. And when did it leave? You see, Mexico never acknowledged the independence of Texas, right? So then James K. Polk was like, well, I declare war on you. Yes, I declare war on Mexico. Yeah. Uh, that's not how it works, though. So odd. Especially since I'm pretty sure he declared war on Mexico without telling Congress. So, again, awkward. Yeah. But essentially, it came down to the fact that Polk supported the expansion of slavery and believed in manifest destiny. You know, the belief that white people needed to take over all of North America, including Mexico. Yeah, yeah. So he went to war with Mexico to obtain the land that is now California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. The Mexican American War ended in 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. In this treaty, the United States got present day Texas, California, Nevada, and Utah, as well as parts of present day Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. The question becomes, would they enter as free states or slave states? Now, there were several issues rolling around at the time. Okay. Now, after the Mexican American War, Texas would enter the Union as a slave state. Nobody's surprised there, right? They were a slave state before they were actually a state. But Texas wanted to expand, and they wanted to expand into New Mexico. Yeah. In fact, they claimed that its territory extended all the way into Santa Fe. However, New Mexico was like, I don't think so. And they wanted nothing to do with Texas expansion. And, and Texas was approximately $10 million in debt. It was left over from their time as an independent nation that was not really an independent nation since Mexico did not recognize their independence. I know, right? Yeah. And then there was California, right? The South wanted to extend slavery to Southern California and to the Pacific coast, but the North did not. And the issue of whether or not it would be a free or slave state would have gone on for years, with the exception of one event that occurred in 1849. What event occurred in 1849 in California? Yes, a little thing called the Gold Rush. Yes. So that same year, California held a constitutional convention that outlawed slavery. Now, aside from the issues going on in the West, there were other issues related to slavery that were happening as well, like Washington, D.C. slave trade angered many in the North who viewed the presence of slavery in the capital as a blemish on the nation. And then we've got the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. It had granted jurisdiction to all state and federal judges over cases regarding fugitive slaves, but several northern states had passed personal liberty laws that made it more difficult to return alleged fugitive slaves back to the North. And there were concerns about the Latter-day Saints in Utah. So, with the exception of Utah, when I say that slavery consumed every waking moment of the nation's existence, I'm not kidding. No, no. But one man came up with a solution, and that man was Senator Henry Clay. Known as the Great Compromiser for his work on the Missouri Compromise, Clay came up with the Compromise of 1850, a package of 5 separate bills temporarily diffusing the tensions between slave and free states. The main points were it defined northern and western borders for Texas while establishing a territorial government for the territory of New Mexico, with no restrictions on whether any future state from this territory would be free or slave. But it awarded the state $10 million in compensation. It added California to the Union as a free state. It established a territorial government for the territory of Utah with no restriction on whether or not any future state from this territory would be free or slave. It permitted slavery in Washington, D.C., but outlawed the slave trade. And as far as the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 required citizens, including those in the northern states, to assist in apprehending runaway slaves and denied enslaved people a right to trial by jury. The Compromise of 1850 played a major role in postponing the Civil War. The Compromise of 1850 accomplished what it set out to do. It kept the nation united, but the solution was only temporary. Over the following decade, the country's citizens became further divided over the issue of slavery. And we know that the Civil War was inevitable.